Now, a total of 58 survivors of terror attacks inspired by Islamist extremism have signed an open letter calling for an end to anti-Muslim hate. They also criticise some politicians for effectively equating being Muslim with being an extremist, which they argue makes the job of Islamist extremists easier and plays into the hands of terrorists. Well, joining me now is a signatory of that letter and survivor of the terrorist attack on Fishmongers Hall, Darryn Frost. Darryn, welcome to the show. Of course, people will remember your extraordinary act of bravery, which may make you blush, Darryn, but it absolutely was. And you were known as the Narwhal Tusk hero, an incredible moment in November 2019, where you stepped in and basically totally risked your own life. Can we reflect upon that day, which you say is a day which has forever changed you?
Hi, Martin. Thank you very much. So that day in question, we were brought together through a program with Learning Together from Cambridge University. The Ministry of Justice kindly hosted at the Fishmongers Hall in London, on London Bridge. And sadly, one of those individuals was an extremist. He pretended really well not to be and to have been converted or come back to the public. And unfortunately, he pre-planned an attack where he stabbed many people, ended up killing two of those people. And he had a really convincing suicide belt across him and two 8-inch knives that he had duct taped to his hands. And myself, using the narwhal tusk, and some former prisoners or prison leavers, and Lucas, who was a porter at Fishmongers Hall, tackled him. I kept holding him down until the police arrived. The police arrived with their machine guns or automatic rifles at our head and told us to clear away. I refused to let him go because I thought if I did, he would set off this bomb and blow up the police, the public, and everyone around us.
An astonishing act of bravery for which you've received the final Civilian Gallantry Award that was approved, of course, by the late Queen. And, you know, hats off to you. You know, the very, very best of humanity for selflessly stepping in and doing what you did. And no doubt, obviously, saving further loss of life. Can we talk now a little bit about the letter you've signed, Survivors Against Terror? 58 survivors of 15 Islamist terror attacks. Darryn, what motivated you to sign that letter?
Yeah, thank you very much for debating this letter and bringing it up today. The letter is really an important one, and when I heard that others were debating writing this, I thought I had to read it first, and it resonated with me because there's a clear distinction to be made between a Muslim individual and an extremist. It's the same as any extremist and the faith or their cause that they propose to be following. They're extreme of those views, and they don't align with those views. And I think it's really dangerous when, sadly, we've had some leaders recently confusing the two terminologies and alluding to or to insinuating that Muslims are terrorists. And this is really dangerous territory. So we need to put a stop to it, and we need to stand up to that kind of language.
Do you think it would be very useful? I often have Muslim leaders on the show here, and for the Muslim community themselves to call out those extremists and to make this absolutely clear this is a tiny, tiny minority of people, nevertheless must be isolated and tackled.
Well, it's not just the Muslim community, it's the whole community that should stamp out extremists. The same as if we think back to New Zealand, they did a fantastic thing after those attacks, and they said that an extremist is an outsider to all of society, not just the viewpoint that they propose to be supporting. So I think it's for all of us to stamp out extremism in whatever form that comes. It's for all of us to, if we see it, stamp out and report hate where we see it cropping up. But yes, I do agree that I'm glad that Muslim leaders are wanting to stamp that out, and that shows a reflection of the true Muslim faith. To be Muslim is a religious faith that is about peace and harmony, and you do get individuals who unfortunately misinterpret that, and it has severe consequences. As you heard, I faced up to the worst of that. But what I think is really important is that if you listen to survivors of attacks from Islamist extremists, we aren't wanting vengeance. We aren't wanting an eye for an eye. What we're wanting is no more attacks, and we're wanting the public to be safe. And to do that comes through understanding and our British values of tolerance and respect of other beliefs and religions.
And Darryn, an extraordinary moment that came out of that initial incident in November 2019, that was when you were holding Usman Khan down and stopping him, as you felt at the time, preventing him from setting off a suicide device. You said you didn't want the police to kill him. You wanted him to face justice. Do you still believe that?
I think it's a much neater solution that he got killed. I think it's much better for the victims' families, so that they don't have to suffer going through trials and having that drawn out. But I do believe he wanted to die, and I think that was his choice, whereas he took the choice from others. And I wish he didn't get his choice. I wish he faced our justice system and our prison system, because he was wanting the coward's way out. He wanted to become a martyr. But I'm very proud of our media for facing or highlighting the heroics of other individuals, the public, the armed responses, the first responders, for how they reacted, because I think that's where the focus should be, is how strong our communities are. In fact, even our group of survivors who've written this letter, that they're all strong enough to come out and put their stories on the line for causes that are important. It shows that these terror attacks actually can bring us closer together, which is the opposite of what the terrorists want.
Darryn Frost, you're an extraordinarily brave young man. Thank you for what you did, and I wish you the very best of luck. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me on.